Hey, and we're back. Welcome back, everyone. YouTube land, wherever land, whatever you are out there. Um, hey, Myron
I,
and Jason, what's going on, guys?
I'm doing good, fellas. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Pretty good. It's like I'm doing well too.
Now we're here to talk about Wandavision,
Yeah.
the
Now
season.
that's
We're gonna review.
all in the retrospective, like all in the
Yeah,
past now.
yep. So, I guess since last time we were discussing this, it was all about I don't remember the last the episodes we discussed. I think it was just before. Was the last two, maybe three episodes we hadn't quite discussed yet, right?
Yeah.
So, I know, Jason. We were talking about the uh there was the episode where they were showing what was happening outside, and then there was the Halloween episode. Did we talk about that one? Right? And there was at Halloween,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
And of course the like ongoing discussion is like, hey, is Mephisto going to be part of this? Is he? Is he really? Kind of is he? No, he's not.
No, he's not. Evidently, the writers didn't know about Mephisto, but I can't confirm nor deny that. That was a rumor.
I'd be
Which
sure
doesn't
they
surprise
did.
me,
Like
by the
if
way.
you're
Like,
writing for a Marvel series, then you kind of that especially one like trades like the supernatural stuff like this. You got to be aware of like Mephisto and how he's Marvel's Satan, but
yeah,
it's like not really, but yeah, he really is Marvel's Satan.
close enough, right? He's a stone's throw from the real deal. Ching.
And I have to say, like, I think the rumor mill of his introduction into the MCU through this series was kind of like fun to kind of keep you glued to the set and watch this series because I remember for
Absolutely,
I,
yes.
I remember for a while, like, the first maybe two episodes, fun and awesome little throwbacks to classic sitcom history, but there was that cloud of like, where's this series going? Where's this show going? And it wasn't until we got introduced to Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe where, like, all the speculation started forming, like, oh, is this how they're going to merge, like, X-Men into the MCU? Like, is this Mephisto playing tricks on Wanda? And you
Or
know
he's just one big boner.
yeah, exactly. That's what it ended up being. But it was just kind of fun to kind of think about the theories and where this show is going. And I kind of I don't think I've actually had that type of like hype train and theory conversation since like Game of Thrones aired. But yeah, one way or another, like I feel like Mephisto is going to be introduced into the MCU. Based off of this, mystical and cosmic storyline it seems to be going in. But unfortunately, we didn't get that with this storyline yet.
Yeah, I mean, they would fit in with Doctor Strange and some of
Hmm.
the other stuff, and who knows? Like, we still have yet to see that.
Hmm.
But that's
Yeah, but
supposed to
this
be
is
the
like
movie, right? Yeah.
the end of the series wound up being a big old tease for Doctor Strange 2, and it's like man, it's like that like second teaser at the end didn't like set up some real like, hey, this seems like some real super villain little stuff right here. Well, it's like I look to see like where they're going with that for the movie, but I think like the whole Mephisto speculation kind of spins into like the big strengths and weaknesses of the series. Because my God, it's like going from week to week, like digesting all the theories. It's like and just like finding out like what's everyone thinking about this. It's like and like oh my God, like is Mephisto going to be in this? It's like just I think like just like that high of just like the anticipation, the potential that the series like fostered. Also because like this is like the first like Marvel project where basically like allowed or really wanted like its audience to be lost for its first couple episodes because like for these first couple episodes, I mean, you're just kind of thinking like, well, okay, they're doing like these cute sitcom passages. This is nice, but you're kind of going, well, what's really going on here? And it feels like after like Marvel has created like this like the most successful film franchise in history, like it wasn't until after they did this they felt that, oh, now we can afford to let our audience just get a little bit lost, like as they digest what's going on here. Because
Mhm.
like just what's like everyone's just kind of going, what's happening here? Is it just like our Vision, our Wanda and the Vision gonna be just like reenacting like classic sitcom stuff that boomers grew up with, like, or is there something else going on here? I mean, obviously it was the latter, but like they were just like so committed to the former that you just couldn't help but wonder, like, what are they really doing here? So it was just like that whole like what's going on here. It's like, and I kind of appreciate that, even if like like I think the series like did trade on like the whole like speculation bit, maybe more than it should have, like over the course of its run.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that, like appreciation of kind of keeping you guessing, but that also frustrated me about the series in the beginning because, I felt like I invested so much into the MCU over I lost count. I know it's 20 something films that tie in together. I remember from the get go of this series premiering, it's like, well, where in time are we? Is this after, is this after in between Infinity War and Endgame? Is this like, afterwards? Is this like between Civil War and Infinity War? Like, what's going on here? And I did appreciate like the little throwbacks to like you said, the classic sitcom and boomer shows. And then it wasn't until episode 3 where like, the door slowly cracked open and we can kind of get a peek to see what's inside the room. And I started getting a little
Or
bit.
Monica starts calling out Wanda on what's really going on here.
Yeah, like I really started getting more intrigued in what was being presented to the audience. Like, okay, like we're starting to get a little bit more insight that this is a world that is manufactured. This is a world that's possibly manufactured by Wanda or some other entity. And so, like each week, I started getting excited and tuning in, just as I was with the Mandalorian. And so, like, I'm not saying that, oh man, this is like the, one of the best Marvel series or best shows that Disney Plus put out. Like, I still kind of have like leaning more on the positive side. There's still like a little bit lukewarmness about this series, just because, the characters of Wanda and Vision, I've never really like, clamored to in my, growing up of like, comic books. But I really thought this was a great, side story that ties into the universe we've come to know and love over the past, 10 years. And so I like to see more projects, that tie in like that, which, Falcon and Winter Soldier premiered today, but that's another conversation. But yeah, I mean, I really like what they did here. And I think, this being the first original Marvel series on the Disney Plus platform, it was a pretty good start.
So let's go with the obvious, I suppose. What questions got answered by the end of the series? By the way, spoilers, everyone. I don't really care because if you're,
It's been
it's
a
been a
couple of
couple of weeks
weeks.
already. Yeah, it's been
Hmm.
a couple of weeks already. But let's just let's talk about this. So this is this is her. She did create this. Period.
Yeah.
This
So
is a post Endgame series.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll
First of
let
all, so this, but this area, this town, it's under her control.
it's under
Mm-hmm.
her. It's
She's
under her
created this,
control.
right?
Yeah.
Why?
She was emotionally distraught. um and Jason chime in if I'm missing anything, but she was emotionally distraught over Vision's death. Sword had the remains of Vision, and they were tearing his body apart.
They're
And
performing a robotic autopsy.
basically, yeah. And I'm still fuzzy on why she went to this town. I don't know if this was like something she and Vision planned to do, or
Yeah,
plan to go
I think
to.
that was it. Like they had basically planned to settle down here,
Yeah,
and
because
and
when
because because it because of like things that happened in Infinity Wars, like that wasn't going to happen now.
right, and because she had this little map that seemed to be drawn by them, like kind of like a romantic type, dream house type plan. And so she drives to this town in Jersey, and there she drives to a empty lot, which seems to be like the spot where a destroyed house was. You just kind of see like the remains of a foundation, and she just let her emotions out to where like it ended up creating this bubble and creating this encapsulate community, which flashed back to some of her favorite sitcoms. And earlier when we were talking about when we were talking offline about member berries, we learned that for Wanda, when she was a child, like these sitcoms were a source of comfort for her. Like she used to sit down with her family and watch Dick Van Dyke and Bewitched and all these shows,
And Malcolm in the Middle.
and Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, so you actually see like a lot of the sitcoms she was into growing up. So from her emotional outbursts, it created a society, it created a world that she felt comfortable in, what she's always wanted to live in. Especially if you see their upbringing in Sokovia, where there's nothing but destruction and war outside. I mean, she always envisioned
It's like
having
and weapons raining down from Stark Industries.
Yep, and you actually see that, like that was explained earlier on in Age of Ultron, where like that's where their anger and hatred towards Tony Stark came from. That Stark bomb landed right into their apartment, and that's the name that they associated with destroying their entire country. So it was interesting to kind of see that little aspect too, like those little Easter eggs kind of tying into the overall MCU picture.
Yeah, and also Wanda's rewriting of like the reality within this town. Well, I mean, this is something we haven't seen of her power set in like the Marvel MCU films so far. I mean, like, to this point, all we know is that she can like wave her hands, like energy beams will come out and all. But in the comics, she's got much slightly more defined reality warping powers, to the point where there's even a big old crossover, House of M, where she basically rewrote all of reality to account for the fact that mutants were now running the show. And it's like and that's kind of just like an idea, like how high her power set can go, because it's been not really well defined over the comics over the years. But in this show, they were able to, like, I think they were able to strike a nice middle ground in terms of, like, using her power set to rewrite reality, but also based on within the confines of these sitcoms, and also like as an extension of her of her grief, regarding Vision's death and all. So I think it's like it's like she's got like she's got these like vaguely defined reality warping powers, but I think they were actually pretty well defined. It's like over the course of this show. So like I appreciated that. Considering that how they've been defined in Marvel universe, in the Marvel Comics universe. Well, it's been kind of like what can we do? What can we make her powers do today?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I kind of really well, actually I wouldn't say kind of, like, I did appreciate that they expanded upon that a little bit more, because when you really think about her role within the MCU, within Civil War, Age of Ultron, and Endgame, and Infinity War, we've rarely seen her full capability of her powers, and this show really presents it to us that wow, she doesn't even know the extent of her power. And also, I really love the fact that they kind of elaborated a bit more on like who she truly is, and what we thought we knew wasn't necessarily true, pertaining to the Mind Stone. And so, we were led to believe that Pietro and Wanda were, granted their powers through experimentations in Sokovia. But it sounds like that, from what we were presented, she had these witch powers within her the entire time. It's just the stone is, starting to bring that out more, and we get explained from Agatha that she's the legendary Scarlet Witch who's not supposed to exist. And so I love how they kind of brought this, like, oh wow, like we know Wanda Maximoff is the Scarlet Witch, but when you think about it, she's never really been called that in the film. So it's like, oh, I love how they kind of brought that to attention and explained that out a little bit more. I thought that was pretty
It,
cool.
it's some good old comic book style retconning right there.
There you go.
Yep, agreed.
hmm So, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cool how they touched on that, and like again, a lot of the subplots going on too, like introducing Monica Rambeau and how she got her abilities. Like I thought that was pretty cool because I mean I don't know much about the character, probably as much as you do, Jason, but I know that her character is a little bit more heavily involved with Captain Marvel, so I'm starting to think of like, man, what are they going to do with Captain Marvel 2 and what kind of storylines can they present here? Like, and of course, at the very, we'll talk about it later, but at the, the very end of the secret, trailer, it's kind of like, oh, okay, where are they going with this now? So
I'd like to see like if Monica, now that they've introduced Monica Rambeau, we can get like a next wave team established at some point. But this is my personal hope as well, because like because at the time when I was first introduced to Monica Rambeau, that was like in context of like next wave, like Warren Ellis and Stuart Immonen's great laughing with the Marvel universe instead of laughing at the Marvel universe comic series. But it's like with but also know that she was also like Captain Marvel for a while back then. She even left the Avengers at one point, but that was also kind of like left in the past at a certain point. Like because like when I encountered her in like Next Wave, I was like who is this character? Wait, you're saying she led the Avengers at one point, and she's not letting anyone forget about that, but it's kind of being played for laughs and all. Yeah. So hopefully, like we'll get like should get like a nice solid direction in Captain Marvel 2, because I can't imagine it's like that she was that the her character, her powers, like as set up here and in the first post credit sequence in the final episode, were set up for anything but that. But also, I just want to also mention that that Agatha Harkness, as like the as the quote unquote main antagonist of the series. Oh man, she was arguably like the most fun part of the entire series, as played by Catherine Hahn. Because I mean, like, yeah, it's like the character is written to like be like like just like having complete joy in manipulating everything that was going on here. But you could also tell that that the actress herself, Catherine Hahn, was having so much fun with this. I mean, it's like it was just like a joy to see like what she was doing in each episode, and especially when we found out that it was Agatha all along, and she even killed Sparky too. Oh man, it's like argue the best part of the series, I think.
that was cold blooded.
Yeah, I'd be angry if she actually killed a cat, but because it's a dog, I think I can laugh at it.
No actual dogs were harmed in the making of this series.
That's fine.
So,
But yeah, all in all, dude, like in conversations too, and when I describe how much I like this show, like I say I give it like a good flat C, C plus. Like that's not necessarily bad, it's passing. I did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, but also
more.
just that it's boring as well.
Yeah, I mean there are some parts, like I will admit, like trudging after watching the first episode, I wasn't necessarily like motivated to like continue, because I was like, it's charming, but WTF. And then the second episode I had to watch twice, because I think when I first watched it, I was playing my Switch at the same time and didn't really pay attention to it. And I'm like, okay, like, let me watch it again. And
It's like,
again,
what? Why is everything at color in color at the end of the episode? Huh?
yeah, so it's like, oh, okay, like color, I can get nah. It's just that I guess for me, I I think I was just impatient. Like this is the first Marvel thing, like Marvel anything we've seen since Endgame. You know, we unfortunately due to circumstances, we weren't able to get
Black Widow.
Black Widow when we were scheduled to, and so I've been just starving for anything MCU related, like for an entire year. And once we finally got something, it just didn't hit me as hard from the jump. So like my attention span originally when watching this show, like didn't necessarily like hold strong. So, I had to just keep pressing through. And, like I said before, by episode 3, things started to pick up to where like my interest peaked in, and it continued. And I won't say like my patience like paid off, but I mean, by the end of the series, I was just really interested in not only the character of Wanda or Scarlet Witch more. I was really intrigued by Vision's character more as well, just because I've always seen images of White Vision, but I have no idea or know of that character. And maybe you can kind of like uh, uh, expand upon this, Jason, as we continue conversing. But I this whole time I was watching the series, I'm like, dude, is Vision really dead? And each time he would try to leave the confines of the bubble, obviously he started breaking apart. And so I'm curious, like, what is he? Is he actual a figment of her imagination? Does she actually get his components and rebuild him? Like, what's going on with Vision? And if Vision truly is dead, he technically kind of isn't if you take into account that part of his consciousness is backed up in Wakanda. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, I was just curious, like, did they ever like get that consciousness back? Is there a chance like he is dead, but they can resurrect him with that consciousness backed up? What's going on here? And of course, after we saw like Vision being dismantled as Sword and being rebuilt and refitted as a synthezoid for their usage, it's like, okay, now we have a new body, but we need our Vision back. We need that Vision consciousness back. So how are they going to play this?
Yeah, it's like I can't really like comment on like the white Vision thing. I know that especially like a rebuilt version of the Vision. It's like after he was disassembled, and that's actually something I kind of want to might be talking about in a future podcast because this series like borrowed from, as I mentioned, borrowed from a lot of different stories in the Marvel universe, but the primary one is Vision Quest by John Byrne when he was writing West Coast Avengers, and
Mm.
I kind of want to talk about that like for a future podcast, not the next one because like I am like so into X-Men and all, but for the one after that most likely, but it's also oh man, it's like where was I going to go with this? It's like I enjoyed the series. I think that it's something that like is more enjoyable like watching as it's coming out than like once than in retrospect because you're kind of like wondering about all the like the potential that it has, like all like the characters that it could introduce, and it's like, oh man, it's like is like, and as we said before, is Mephisto going to be part of it? Is he? Is he? Is he really? It's like that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I will say that it got me when we got Evan Peters as Pietro, and I'm like, because like throughout the day, it's like before I would sit down and watch the episode, it's like I was thinking like, oh, there's like some. I heard, oh wait, there's some mysterious cameo like in this episode. What, is it gonna be Doctor Strange? It's like, cause like I heard the series is meant to tie into like his new movie. It's like, oh, is it gonna be Bruce Banner? Because like they were talking about like a character who knows like lots of science in the series beforehand. But who's it gonna be? It's like, oh my god, it's gonna be Quicksilver from the X-Men movies by Fox. No way, man. Oh my god. Mind blown. It's like yeah, that was really kind of impressive. And I know I've got some friends who basically were kind of like, who were impressed by this, but also were kind of pissed by the fact that this doesn't mean that, oh, well, it's just basically a big old tease. I mean, they're not
Mhm.
actually going to integrate the X-Men at this point. They're not actually going to bring in mutants into the Marvel Universe. It's just like a big old tease, like, for fan people who are in the know. And don't get me wrong, I thoroughly appreciated that. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of like, oh man, it's like, like, I'd really like to see this as proof, like, like Marvel's run with like a mutants right now, but it really kind of isn't. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm probably one of your friends that are pissed off about that, but not, I guess, not entirely seriously pissed off, but just a little disappointed. Like, oh man, is this our little segue into mutants being introduced to the MCU? Does this mean like Fantastic Four is going to be introduced at some point soon too? Because we know, like, ever since Disney bought Fox, like those are some of the big properties that they got back. But you have to take a step back, and I had to take a step back and just realize, what, like, Marvel already has their phase 4 roadmap planned out, and quite honestly, like, shoving in Fantastic Four and X-Men right now isn't necessarily like part of the plan. So I do have to be realistic. Like, like the sooner we'll see those characters is when they come into the phase 5 uh you know um introduction of those stories. But we could be close enough to where we could start getting those little teases of that introduction. But yeah, this show was a little bit too early to do that, which was a little disappointing. But to your point, I can appreciate it, giving fans that little mulligan and getting them hyped for it, because at some point we do know it's coming. And
Yeah, it's kind of like, just them teasing like the multiverse in general, like in
mhm,
Spider-Man: Far From Home, when we were introduced to Mysterio, and we're saying, oh, he's a character from the like from from a different universe, but then we find out that, oh wait, no, he's not. He's just like, he's just faking it. So it's just kind of like, I think it's Marvel just like testing the waters, just determining, like, okay, how does the fan base react to this? Like, do they think? I mean, like, obviously, like, like the Mysterio thing was a fake out, in terms of, like, getting like everyone to think, like, hey, is the multiverse like a viable concept we can introduce to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And so, like, they're just kind of like teasing that just to see how the fan base reacts, and that's kind of like, I figure that's kind of the same thing that was going on with introducing of the X-Men version of Quicksilver here,
mhm.
just getting everyone thinking, like, okay, so can we introduce like characters from different universes, and are people going to be cool with this? And also, just, like, what about, like, how do people feel about mutants, like, in general? So
Well, to your point on that as well, like, the whole, like, when you say them testing the multiverse to test the waters and how fans would react to it, like, for me, like, I'm super hyped about it, because I've never really been that big a Doctor Strange fan, but when the movie came out, like, I really loved it. I think Doctor Strange is one of the dopest MCU movies in the lineup, and just kind of seeing his, like, abilities, like, especially like in Infinity War, when he was looking at millions of different timelines to see where we our odds are better at defeating Thanos. Like, it gave me a little bit of insight. Like, oh wow, like, he could see into multiple different universes and versions. Like, could they incorporate that, like, type of storyline within the MCU? Like, we get an ultimate universe style storyline, or could we get, like, anything outside of the 616 kind of storyline? Because not comparing uh, um, to DC really, but DC television, they've done those concepts already with Earth One, Earth Two, those type of storylines, and with Doctor Strange kind of being the key in the MCU to those multiverses, I would kind of um, like to see those segments implemented. So that's another reason why I'm hyped for Spider-Man 3. Not only being a which I think the official title came out for it called No Way Home.
mm-hmm.
Um, I'm really hyped for that movie, because I know Doctor Strange is going to be a part of it, and it makes me curious as to what multiverse type of storyline they're going to go with, because we know, at least from the comic books, we know that you know during Civil War, Peter unveiled his identity, and of course, in Far From Home, his identity has been exposed, and he made that deal with Mephisto, which led into was it Brand New Day, and
One
so
more day.
one more day, thank you, one more day, and so that's why I got on the Mephisto hype train with this series. Like, oh, is that how they're going to incorporate Spider-Man? And on top of that, Sony and Disney have been playing ball with the whole, Spider-Man being involved in the MCU. So while Spidey's here, working with the other Marvel superheroes, Sony's able to do, Venom and Morbius and those type of stories, and how we can kind of get that convergence of like a crossover, or or type of like team up movie. Could Doctor Strange kind of be that, fourth wall key to, merge the movie universes together? And so I think this series of WandaVision was kind of like a good little insight to, um, not necessarily multiverse, but reality manipulation and reality, uh, uh, like a different universe within a bubble, to kind of give us some insight on possibilities that they can go with in the MCU. And as I mentioned before, like even Ant-Man 1 and 2, like going into like the microverse and stuff like that,
The quantum universe.
the quantum universe, like we've gotten some insight to the possibilities that they could do for multiverse storylines, and so far I think they've done it very well. Because like jumping back again to Doctor Strange, like I loved his interaction with Dormammu. Like when
Hmm.
I have this certain view of like Dormammu and how his design is from the comic books, and I was thinking like, how could they do him pretty? How could they do him in a movie and make him look good? And I just kind of like, when you see Dormammu for the first time, like um, in Doctor Strange, you're like, oh crap, dude! Like this guy looks evil. This guy looks menacing. Like
Yeah,
Steven's not getting out of this whatsoever.
yeah, and in the end, like when Steven did get out of it, it wasn't through like like out fighting him; it was through outsmarting him. It's like,
Hmm.
and that's what I really liked about Doctor Strange. Since that it like presented like a hero who was like capable of outsmarting like like the main character, and like what I kind of like from seeing in my superhero comics, like just the idea that the heroes are more clever and smarter than the villains, and that's also kind of like what I really like seeing at the end of WandaVision as well. I mean, sure you can acknowledge that, oh, it's like it devolves into like a big battle with the sky beam between Wanda and Agatha. But in the end, it's like Wanda actually has the smarts, like to like know how to use her known magical abilities to get around what Agatha has set up here, and I really like that right there. I mean, like the ending, like how she wanted to, how she managed to like outsmart Agatha at the end, and
Using
then yeah, and then at the end when like now she's sealed away the big bad, and now that her version of reality is slowly just disintegrating around her. Well, she realizes that, oh, I can't keep what I've set up. So like I've got to say goodbye to my boys. I've got to say goodbye to the man that I love. It's like, and I've also got to come face to face with all the people that I've wronged, like in the series. That was a good solid finale right there.
hmm
It really set up the sense that like, okay, yeah, yeah, she may have had like good personal reasons for doing this. I mean, well, okay, maybe they were selfish, but you can understand why she did it. She was someone who had extraordinary powers, and she wanted to use them to escape the grief that she had that was enveloping her. Like when the people when the person she loved like exited her life, and it only wound up, and in doing so, it only wound up compounding that grief, because now she got to like connect with him again, but she also got to connect with like the kids that she made with him as well.
hmm
So So yeah, I think that the series, like, like, even if it lost a little bit in the sense that, okay, all the speculation, no, there's no Mephisto, um, like, it didn't have that. It still told a solid, like, grounded emotional story, like, with a lot of, with some sky beams, with some people like throwing beams of light in the air. But I think it was still, like, solidly grounded in recognizable human emotions that that in the end you could appreciate what Wanda went through and understand, just, this is what happens when a super person goes through grief. And I think it did a good job of, like, establishing that. And even
Right.
then, it's like, that second teaser we get at the end, like, okay, I can understand, like, her feelings right there, even if, like, it's setting her up to be, like, the villain of Doctor Strange too. But that being said, like, her villainy, if that's what it is coming from a recognizably human place of, like, wanting, like, to, like, do right for the people that you loved. But hopefully, like, now that we know that White Vision has all the memories of, like, regular Vision, like, we'll be able to get around that, maybe, possibly,
Hmm. Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. It's we're gonna have to see. Well, they've definitely. I think Myron's comments earlier were very spot on. It's like they've shown what they can do in this universe, and they can bring others. They could bring them back if they want to. Yeah, and
They
that's
can do
cool.
whatever they want if they've got a good enough and solid enough reason for doing so.
And you know
Yeah,
what? If they wanted to get real frivolous, they can like say, "Oh, we're going to reboot Iron Man," but it's actually Ultimate Iron Man in a different universe,
hmm,
and just get
yeah,
another actor and reboot it.
yeah, yeah. They can do it, and I think that's cool. I think that's fine. For what they're trying to do. It's just kind of feels I
They'll
think
probably get it'll probably be like Ironheart for the next Iron Man.
yeah
I
my
yeah,
my overall opinion of it though is um it's it's kind of like this series is it's not too bad. It's not stellar either though. I think that's
no,
my final like judgment on this particular series. I just it's um I think it's fine and it's functional, and I there are some scenes where I go, oh, okay, that's interesting, and then other things where I'm just kind of like, it's not interesting. So, and I don't know if that's by design or if that's just or if they in other words, when I say by design, like that's how they planned it out, like
Mm-hmm.
um or if if they were trying for something and it didn't quite communicate it. Either way, I still think that it comes across well. I'm interested in seeing the next season, see what they do with it. So what are
Yeah,
your
it's like
thoughts
I,
as
I
like overall?
yeah, it's like I don't know if there's gonna be like a next season. If anything's like, I get the feeling that these current Marvel properties are being developed as
one
as
shots.
yeah,
Mhm.
basically they're trying to
Like
tell a
to fill
specific
in the
story.
gaps, basically. It's like here's a piece that's going to lend to the overall story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think that
and I
makes
think
sense.
I think WandaVision definitely benefits from being like the first of that. So it maybe it will get a second season just based on the fact that, like, hey, it crashed Disney Plus, like when people were, like, they're trying to get, like, to the final episode. But I don't know. It's like I, I don't know if it necessarily needs a second season based
Yeah.
on what we got here. It's like
Yeah.
I think it's told a pretty solid self-contained story, and I guess, it's like, if they're, I guess, like, whatever they're planning on continuing it, it's probably going to be in Doctor Strange 2, unless they decide that, oh, well, maybe we do need to continue the story in WandaVision season 2 after
If
Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of
yeah,
Madness.
Hmm.
if there is one, and definitely it's sort of like, well, okay, the show's over. It definitely, and I'll have to hand it to them there. It definitely had a finality to it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, even though it may have been just a slight bit dragged out. No offense. It's just
No,
it's sort of like,
and I get it.
yeah,
I
it's
get
Well,
it.
like,
not going to
uh,
argue with you.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we know it's the big, sad, tearful ending, and here comes the barrier, the end of the world. Shoop. It's like, okay, everyone must say their goodbyes. Um,
And
that reminds me of something. I don't know exactly what, but anyway.
and see what I think this series has proved. I mean, even though Mickey Mouse has money, is that the MCU storylines can work as a series. We're accustomed to these big blockbuster movies that are standalone characters that eventually build up to a cameo or combo movie like Civil War or Avengers or whatnot. Excuse me. And this is the first foray into them doing a television series. And obviously we have two more. We have Captain or Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which premieres today, and then we have Loki. But given the production quality and the star power that they can put behind these type of shows, I would kind of like to see more continuous series based off of, like, I guess you would say, like, lesser known characters, like like
Like Modoc,
yeah, like, well, there,
which
yeah,
is
there's
happening because like
this,
it's like we heard about like the Patton Oswalt back series that's
yeah,
coming on coming
yeah,
to
there's
what is it, Hulu, I
Hulu,
think.
yeah, there's that Modoc, kind of claymation uh animated series, but, like, we have a She-Hulk series, like, on the
That's in the
horizon.
pipeline, yeah.
Yeah, Kamala Khan, be awesome to see. I think they did cast an actress to play Kamala Khan, but I don't know if that's a series or she's going to be in a movie. But I mean, there's a
If it's
there's
not
a
a series, she's gonna be in. If it's not a series, then she'll be in Captain Marvel too, for
yeah.
obvious
So
reasons.
so I mean, there's so many characters in the back catalog that they could definitely make, like, a 2-season series, or if it gets popular, even more. And so I think, I mean, just like with Star Wars with Mandalorian, they've proven that, you know, with the success of the Mandalorian, that a Star Wars show is awesome. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, it's like, man, well, not out of the blue, but all
And
of a
I'll be
sudden,
like, we've got like a year's worth of like Star Wars stories to tell, and like
exactly.
the same case with like the Marvel stuff as well. It's like I think that like the Disney does kind of want to have like like an ongoing, not necessarily like one like series weekly, but just like enough series going so that you can like you're just like engage on a weekly basis, like for
Yep.
Marvel and like for Star Wars as well. And
Yep.
I gotta admit that based on their efforts so far, it's like that is not really a bad thing.
Yep. But, kind of to John's point too, I didn't feel like this was like, bases loaded, home run, you know, first effort, but, I thought it was, a really good. I thought it was a really good show, and, a decent introduction. Like I said, for me, solid C plus. Like, I really did like it, but I do have higher expectations for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and even higher for Loki, because I'm really stoked. I've been waiting for that one for a minute.
Because Tom Hiddleston is like awesome as that character, and like
It,
anytime you want to give him more space to run with that character, then like
And the
I want
ladies
to
like
see
him.
that.
Let's
Yeah,
face
yeah.
it, the ladies
and
like him.
I will say
He's got his audience.
Hmm.
yeah, and I will say that I would probably give Wandavision like a solid B, maybe a B plus if I'm feeling generous, because I actually enjoyed tuning in week after week, and that's more than I can say for like other series. Cause like
Yeah.
I I was cause like I was thoroughly engaged by this, and I thought it was like like I didn't view tuning in like each Friday as like an obligation. I can actually
Well,
like look forward to like seeing what was coming next.
I'm probably more on Myron's grade system there, and I'll just say it. C minus, only because I didn't
Ouch.
think I didn't think that the character development was all that impressive. Honestly, I think what we got was, unfortunately, something we've seen before with Marvel television shows, and it's like a tease, and that's my biggest problem. It's like I take some more risks, please, with your characters. I don't think that I thought there was any risks really, and unfortunately, no peril, no. Who I felt the worst for is just the people in the town. I didn't
Hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
even care. I actually didn't even care about like about any of the majors per se. I think I think Vision, when he's trying to break out the barrier, gets a little bit more of my sympathy at that point.
You shed a little
Um,
tear.
yeah, but as for involvement in the characters, it's sort of like, and that was my biggest problem. Like for sure. And I know I mentioned this in the first, when we talked about the first two. I was like, okay, what's okay? There is a point to this episode, this first episode, but it's completely, unless it's just like his boss choking on the thing and then something weird happening. I don't understand why I'm sitting here watching this. And the ironic thing is that I know other people like that, like the first two, and then it fell off. And I'm like, I just don't see the connections here. I'm like, outside of it being like, okay, here's a tick in the timeline for this whole story. I'm like, well, it's essentially a waste of 30 minutes. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, it introduces the characters. I get it. I understand the format of the show. Um, Overall, though, it's not horrible. I'm just gonna say that, but I just didn't get as invested as I would like to, in the characters. And yeah, yeah, that's. I mean, and I would like to see, maybe they'll include these characters in other MCU television shows in the future. Perfect. I would like to see what happens. Maybe there's more to it. But that's kind of my final on that. Is it worth watching? Yeah, sure. If you like the MCU. If you're not really into it, you may not, it might not be a thing for you. But if you're into the MCU, you read comics, you're into the Marvel comic universe, then there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs in here for you. There's going to be a lot of references, a lot of
Oh
conflicts
yeah.
that, they're going to and that's and Jason, that's probably the difference, right? So, it's like there's a lot more to digest from that point of view, and I understand it too. So
And if you're in
um,
love with Kat Dennings as much as I am, that's also a plus.
and I'm just gonna say it this
Yep.
way: I want the mutants, please. I'm just gonna tell you right out. I mean, I want there to be more of a game plan and not just a tease. I mean, and it kind of busted it when
Wait,
Quicksilver.
wait, trying to be just a big old boner.
Was that? Well, I mean, it was nothing.
Because that was his name,
Honestly. Huh?
Ralph
What's that?
Boner.
That was his
Oh yeah,
name.
that's right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah. Well, and yeah, nice pun. It's I mean, but that's what it was, and it's sort of like, oh, all right. So but we really want to see that. Um, and was it even a tease? I mean, it's not, because there's nothing there. I mean, outside of the fact that we have just something that's related, and this actor is the same actor who was in the X-Men movies.
It's like, hey, get it?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, John, I'm going to tell you what George R. Martin told Butters and Scott Malcolmson in South Park. The pizzas are coming. The dragons are coming. So we're eventually going to get there. But I agree with you. I think because actually all of us. I think because all of us are fans of the X-Men. We want it now just because we've been disappointed with the X-Men. What, the past 4 years, the past two movies.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
There
with
have been like some great highs and some great lows with X Men, and I think
yeah,
that because like the series didn't go out with Logan, that's like we're kind of like thinking like, oh man, it's like you're telling me we have to like wait for the next X Men film based on like Dark Phoenix.
yeah,
No man, it's like we want our mutants now, man.
yeah. We ran out of gas before we got to the gas station with Age of Apocalypse, and so I think we're just starving for like good. Because let's face it, X-Men started off the contemporary superhero movies that we know today. Um, and they have been kind of like the face and the forefront of comic book hero movies since 2000, and to not see them on a regular basis as we normally did, I do feel that emptiness. Like, where's my Jean Grey? Where's my Cyclops? Where's my Wolverine? Like, I think Hugh Jackman and damn it, what's his name? Madsen.
James
Um,
Marston.
thank you, James Marsden, Halle Berry. You know, there's so many actors that have done such a good job with those characters and those roles. My expectation for MCU's foray into the X-Men universe is, the bar is set high. But at the same time, that we can't rush to that bar, so to speak. So I agree with John. Like, I wanted a little bit more than just a red herring thrown my way. I want to hear about a plan. I want to see some type of tease, like even for the Fantastic Four to me, because like I am a big Fantastic Four fan, and I'm probably the only person that'll say and admit I love. Well, I do enjoy the Jessica Alba um, uh, Fantastic Four movies. Like, yeah, they're cheesy and campy, but that's the kind of first time I got to see some of my favorite characters on the big screen. And I wish they'd done a better job at the time, but so be it. But now is the chance to where like these characters can kind of get the professional backing and love that only Mickey Mouse could produce, and get some real uh, substance behind their character building and their stories. And at this point, I hope they kind of do it like Spider-Man, where we already know how they got their cosmic powers. Whoop de whoop. We don't need a retelling of like them going to space and getting hit by cosmic rays or whatever. I have a feeling that these guys are going to take their time to build a storyline to where like they're not regurgitating origin stories and what we know of the X-Men or Fantastic Four. They're going to bring them in at a good jumping point that introduces them into the Marvel universe, but also kind of give us like a new insight on who these people are, while also not dumbing us down like we don't know who these people are. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so with mutants never being explained in the MCU period, like they got to carefully weave that into the storyline somehow. And I truly believe the multiverse storyline is the way to do that.
And here's the yeah, I agree with you. And here's the challenge. It has to be because most people know the Hugh Jackman Wolverine. They know the all the other main characters. They know how it is. It's not the low bar they have to hit. It's the high bar of those performances they have to either be there or exceed it somehow in order
Mm-hmm.
for it to be successful. And by the way, just doing a quick and it's going to take some time, but doing a quick search roll here. 21st Century Fox was acquired by Disney on March 20th, 2019.
Damn.
You know what today is? Well, right now it is March 20th,
Yep.
2021.
So it's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years. Now that's fine. We understand that there have been other world events that have been going on. However, production continues to move on. And I think that it's like Kevin Feige, show us the game, show us more of the game plan.
Yeah,
That this is a hot franchise. So I'm
I
just
think
saying,
I think they're
right?
they're already well and deep into like the next phase of Marvel. It's like plan things like on the assumption like what we've got now is what we've got is all we've got to work with, and then suddenly they find out, wait, you're saying we got mutants now? What, we got the X-Men to work with? Oh well, how are we going to work things in our current plans?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and
it's like I think it's an embarrassment of riches that they're
and
having to deal with.
yeah, and to be fair, we don't even know the roadmap to the current game plan, because by now we should have already had Black Widow, the Eternals, and I think Shang Chi was originally supposed to come out what February or maybe even this month, and
And
so
Morbius. Well, that's
it,
like it's from the like the Sony side of things,
from the Sony, yeah,
but it's still like compatible.
yeah, so from the Sony side of things, we should have already been had Morbius. We should have already had Morbius and Venom 2. And so obviously to, like John, just to reiterate what John said, yeah, obviously, world events have prevented, art from being made, and we all had to make sacrifices to keep ourselves, in safe and in a better state of affairs. But you know, things have gotten shifted to the right now, and so like, we're still awaiting Black Widow, we're still awaiting Eternal, Shang Chi. We know Thor, Love and Thunder is slated for this wave as well, and
Yeah,
Doctor
but
Strange
definitely not
2.
this year.
Not this year. I think Spider-Man 3 is slated for December still. Um, and I don't even remember seeing a date for Eternals, what that changed to. So I mean, yeah, I don't foresee us getting X-Men or Fantastic Four until like 2023 realistically.
And here's the thing though. The danger is that they can't let that stuff just sit on the shelf either. So,
Right.
No, so I think we'll see Black Widow. It's like by the end, like either at the beginning of May. It's like as things are as was
and
originally said.
and here's the problem with theaters not really being open, and even if they were open, having limited capacities in those theaters,
Right.
they're looking at a loss, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Even with all the stuff that the streaming services are doing, let's say Disney Plus and everything, it's like, here's a premium, you can get this. They're still losing money on it. This it's
Mm-hmm.
not making the money that they would like, kind of in a weird irony, like, Endgame hopefully is not like the last time that we see blockbuster like hits like, like wreck records, right? So,
Nope.
in order for the theaters to actually make for the companies like Disney and Paramount to actually make money, they need to bring people back into the theaters,
Mm-hmm.
and which might be an interesting proposition for the next few years. What does that mean? Well, we have, as they say, things in the can, but if the production budget of those things is X amount of dollars and they make, half of X, then that's a problem. And I'm not trying to make a pun with X-Men here. I'm just saying, like, okay, yeah, well, those actors need to, they expect to get paid, and they're going to get paid, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to make money on those things. And here's an interesting concept. Um, bring in some new fresh blood. You don't necessarily need to have like the freshest talent. You have to have good talent. Bring
Mm-hmm.
your James McAvey, is that his name? The guy
McAvoy.
who played, yeah,
McAvoy.
McAvoy.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in people like, who have, other careers, other acting careers. Bring them in. They're not going to, want humongous paychecks. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, get him back to do Professor X. I think that's out of the, I think that's more or less, unless he's willing to go for that. It was like the Star Trek, what would have been the fourth Star Trek movie by J.J. Abrams. I think that one of the problems was that there was a price negotiation breakdown with oh gosh, who's the guy who plays Thor?
Chris
I forget that.
Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth.
Hemsworth. He would have come back to reprise his role as Kirk's dad, except his price tag rose quite a bit since the first movie, where he actually did play Kirk's dad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
of Kirk's father, we should say, right?
But then
Because he
his
wasn't Thor before that.
yeah, his
So,
his his star status shot up, so his price tag increased.
exactly. Get some fresh actors in there, and who are going to give it their all and give us a great performance. I think that and you don't have to hire, for the mega bucks. You can hire them for the hey, here's the good bucks. Bring in your. I'm not going to say this. I don't know how much Daisy Ridley made, but she's certainly for Star Wars, she was a new face.
Hmm.
Bring in people like that, that can do a decent job acting, and
And,
then and are rising stars. So, I mean,
and
after all, even Luke Skywalker, I know we're kind of slipping into Star Wars territory.
mhm.
Even Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, what did he do before he was Luke Skywalker in
He was the
1977?
Joker.
No, before Luke's like in the 77.
Yeah, before 1977, what was
Oh,
Mark
nothing.
Hamill?
I
Yeah,
don't even
exactly.
I don't even know. I think
Yeah.
that might have been his like first role.
Yeah, that's the kind of like, and I'd say, hey, get those in, get them in there. Now, like I said, Kevin Feige, just write this, to help pull those storylines together, and then weave your properties together so that you see, so that that we go, oh yeah, it's feasible. And I think if there was one takeaway from the WandaVision show, it's like, and like I said, I reiterate again what you said, Myron. It's like the multiverses, things like that, you have possibilities now. You can bring
Hmm.
people in, and I could almost see myself. It's like, hey, you could bring this Quicksilver in from this universe if you knew how to, if you could, write
Hmm.
it just right,
Right.
and we would believe it. And by the way, he was like that guy when he was playing Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, one of the more popular characters in the newer X-Men cast, right?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
to your point, and I get what you're saying there too. I mean, you can kind of pick and choose like which actors from the previous universe you want to bring into this new universe because you could split it up to where like and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but you could split it up to where like when Wanda like wiped out like pretty much majority of the mutant population and only like a few remain. I mean, that could be like a storyline in some sort of way integrated into the MCU in which like okay, like from the Fox universe we're going to bring in Evan Peters, we're going to bring in James McAvoy, we're going to bring in Michael Fassbender to reprise these roles, but then in the MCU universe like mutants were hidden because for whatever storyline and like only these mutants survived and it was Wolverine, Cyclops, Storms, whatever. I mean, there's possibilities by using the multiverse, formula in a storyline to kind of like bring this stuff in together. Or, like you said, start from scratch with everybody, bringing in fresh face actors that have never really been utilized in huge roles before. Like right now, I'm looking at my movie poster hanging on my wall of Stranger Things, and a lot of these kids from Stranger Things are talented actors doing more movies and more shows beyond what they started out doing, what we've known them for, which is this show. I mean, any of those kids could easily play like a popular X-Men character in this, and there's so much young talent up and coming in Hollywood or already established in Hollywood where like they might not make the Tom Cruise or Robert Downey Jr. or Denzel Washington salaries to where like you're not going to break the bank, to push out something a little bit more quickly. So I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, but as we've seen with the MCU, over the past 10 years, they've always had this roadmap of like what they have planned coming out. Like phase three is like this movie, this movie, this movie, this movie, leading up to Avengers, Infinity War. And so, unfortunately, like now that we're in phase four, that roadmap was already planned out. So, um, unfortunately, we're gonna have to like wait until phase five until we like truly hear some news about it. But I feel like it's coming sooner than later because just like you said, John, um, they bought Fox in 2019. A year ago from 2 years ago from today, and so I have to believe that within that 2 year gap, there's already like some type of like draft of a script or plan already like there and just ready to be tackled.
Mhm. Yep, I totally agree. So yeah, it's I'm the optimist in this because obviously I think that they know it's a good franchise. They have to plan that execution. They can plan the first part of the MCU the way they did, even if some of it was off the cuff, which I think some of it was, honestly, but I think that they pulled it together pretty well, especially near
Hmm.
the end there. They can definitely go with this, and that's the reason why I have the faith that I do that they'll be able to do it.
And see, and that's why I'm stoked for Loki's series, and then also Thor: Love and Thunder, and obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because those characters and those storylines deal with more of the cosmic side of the Marvel universe, and that's gonna. I feel those stories are gonna kind of segue and introduce the Fantastic Four, and yeah, so I'm really stoked to see what this current roadmap is going to lead to.
Yep. All right, guys. I think we're pretty much good with this, and then we'll just you'll just get you guys out there in YouTube land and wherever. You'll have to catch us next time, and we'll talk to you later.
Yes, we will.
Until the next episode.
Yep. Peace.
Later.